What's going on, everybody? We got some decent financial things to talk about, but yesterday, I'm sure you've heard by now, got a more pressing political / current event, I guess, to talk about. An attack in Bondi Beach, Australia, something I'd never heard of, but outside of Sydney, which I have heard of, at a Hanukkah celebration. Hanukkah, if you don't know, Jewish holiday, on the beach. As of right now, to just get into the quick details, at least 15 people are dead, a couple dozen people injured. It seems like the reports are all over the place of how many people are actually hurt. They don't really know, but 20, 30, 40 people maybe, depending on the number you're looking at. There was a father and a son, a 50-year-old and a 24-year-old, believe, shooter. There's videos of this. I'm not going to put them in here. I don't think YouTube really vibes with any of that, or just tank it as far as like how far the viewership goes. If you want to find the videos, just get on Twitter or something. You can find them pretty easily yourself. They're standing on a bridge, and you see the video. I mean, they just start opening fire on all these people on the beach. Just gunshots left and right for a good 10, I think it was 12 minutes is how long the police response time took. We'll get into that in a little bit, because that seems ridiculously long and unacceptable in my opinion, honestly. But there's some people filming from across the street in like a apartment building or something, and they film almost all of this. And it's it's crazy video. There's obviously a video too of the aftermath and the people and the carnage and things like that. It's terrible. It's disgusting. I know as of right now, there's reports there's a 10-year-old killed and an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor also killed. And like I said, 15 people murdered for no reason. We'll get into the ideology thing, but the news generally is reporting they were obviously ideologically motivated. How you want to read into that one way or the other, go ahead. But I got some more details. At least the 50-year-old, the dad, was the one who was, all the firearms were licensed through. I don't know that much about Australia. I do know they have strict gun laws. We'll get into that too a little bit. The gun control argument that's obviously spurring out of this, as Australia is kind of like the typical go-to template of strict gun laws, less gun crime and things like that. But the dad had the guns licensed to him. I believe he had 6 licensed to him, and the son obviously they just went together and took the guns. From what I can tell, they were definitely using shotguns, and I believe bolt action rifles. And I read something about a straight pull bolt action rifle. I don't shoot that much. I've shot straight pull rifles before, and I've shot shotguns before. People were talking about how, like, oh, look how fast they're cycling the guns and things like that. They must be trained to this or that. My personal opinion, my humble opinion, you don't have to be that trained to learn how to cycle a bolt action rifle, especially if it's straight pull. And shotguns neither. I mean, I don't know what kind of shotguns they're using exactly, but you can obviously tell in a couple of the pictures they have shotgun rounds with them. It's not, I don't think they have to necessarily be trained in some special way to do it. It is what it is. A bunch of defenseless people on a beach in an open area, and 2 guys on an elevated position with a gun. Like, obviously not a good spot to be in. Maybe you've seen the video overall. There's a clip of the dad. For some reason, he goes down off the bridge, and a guy kind of sneaks in from behind a car and grabs a hold of him and the gun and wrestles the gun from him. I think it's a shotgun. It's too blurry to really tell. Wrestles the gun from him. The guy kind of falls down, stumbles back, and the guy who wrestles the gun from him, a hero, honestly. This guy, insane amount of courage to do what he did. Props to him. His name, Ahmed Al-Ahmed. Another Muslim guy. The shooters' names were what? I can't remember. Sadid and Navid. And so, obviously, the younger one, the 24-year-old one, was born in Australia, but the father was an immigrant. I don't think they've explained where he's from or anything like that, but back in the 90s. But another Muslim guy, I don't know if he's Muslim religiously or ethnically, whatever, but the name, obviously, wrestles the gun away from him, points it at him, but lets the guy go. And I don't want to be too harsh on the guy, because what he did was more than you could ask almost anybody else, I think is fair to say. But I think most people now are criticizing him, and my first thought too was like, why didn't you just end the guy right there? You saw him shooting at innocent people for no reason. Damn to be the consequences. But he didn't. He let him go, and the guy went back up onto the bridge, and as far as we know, continued just shooting, firing off the bridge, and hurting innocent people from then on. So props to the guy for doing what he did. You never know in the moment and things like that. It's a lot harder to do something like that than just talking about it on a camera. So I'll give that grace. It is what it is. But still props to the guy for stepping up and wrestling the gun out of his hands. I'm impressed. That's amazing. And from that, I'd like to at least get into the gun control argument a little bit. Like I said, Australia is something special with their gun control laws. I believe, if I remember my brief historical reading on Australia, they had another mass shooting in 1996, I believe, and they passed a bunch of laws that restricted all their firearm ownership and tightened everything down. And they're already promising again to tighten it even further. I don't know how much further they can really go. I know they have background checks like the United States does, but apparently stricter. Special rules about what kind of guns you can own, and you have to take a safety course, and you have to prove that you have the guns stored in a safe location. And the guns cannot be used for self-defense. That can't be your reasoning for wanting to own the gun, which is interesting, I guess. The argument with gun control, I think, normally comes down to what? Good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun or something like that. Yeah, I don't know. If somebody was armed in this situation, like what, with a handgun, maybe, who knows? You don't really know. The guy who wrestled the gun from him could have ended half of it with the gun that he took from him, I guess, but didn't end up happening. But obviously the debate is raging around like, oh, look, Australia has these tight gun controls, and this still happens in their country. And I think it's kind of an easy argument to make. I mean, we have states in the United States that all have strict gun control laws, and the people that support owning guns will say, hey, it doesn't work. Obviously, you guys have some of the worst gun crime in these states, especially in your large cities, in these tight New York, Chicago, and Illinois. And then the other side, the non-gun advocates, or whatever you want to call it, will say, oh, well, it's because they go to other states that have loose gun laws, buy guns there and bring them back. And it's like, well, it's all illegal. It turns into a thing where it's like they're gonna use this, and every time something like this happens, they obviously use it to tighten their grip on everybody else. So I wouldn't be surprised if Australia, I don't know if you watched what they did during COVID, they got really authoritarian really quick. If they use this as like hey, everybody's getting monitored, we're gonna strip all gun ownership, like that's the direction they're headed. We'll see. I guess we'll talk about it when it happens, if it happens. But my bet right now, that's where they're headed, is no guns for anybody. They're going to just strip that right. I don't think the Australians have that right, but in the United States, it's a right here through our Constitution. So, whatever. It is what it is. Will it work? I don't think so. These people, obviously, like I said, ideologically motivated. There's people throwing rumors out about what they said during the event and during the shooting and stuff. I don't know. I haven't seen any of it, so I'm not going to talk about it. I think speculating on that kind of shit is kind of stupid. I'm trying to just stick to the facts as they are. One of the things I was able to find and see was the younger one, the 24-year-old, was investigated by the Australian Intelligence Service in 2019 for possible or alleged connections with an ISIS cell in Sydney, Australia. And there was a quote in the thing I was reading where they basically said they didn't find him as a ongoing credible threat. And then shit like this happens 6 years later, and those people that decided that maybe are regretting their decision. And it seems so crazy every time. In the United States, it happens all the time where, oh yeah, they were on the FBI's radar, they were on so-and-so's radar, but we thought they weren't a threat. And then terrible things happen, and I don't know what you do about it, honestly. It's a failure. It's going to keep happening because it's imperfect. Humans are involved. People fuck up all the time. So, I mean, you got to live with it in some sense as far as the human element of these things. the big question that's going to come, obviously, is already starting. I saw some clips about it where it's the Jewish-Muslim feud, forever burning, constant thing where they just, overall, the Muslims of a certain sect of Islam deem the Jews as needing to be killed, basically. These are the extreme Islamists, whatever you want to call them, jihad, the act of doing this. It doesn't really matter. I was listening to a podcast where they're talking about compatibility of Islam in the West, and I think they're making a lot of good points. I'm not a religious scholar or anything, so big grain of salt on everything I'm about to say, but myself, I would consider myself a Christian. Grew up in the United States, went to church all throughout my whole life for the most part, pretty much. And I would, like I said, I would consider myself a Christian. I don't go around talking about my religion all that much, but that's what it is. Islam, where I live, middle of nowhere, Ohio, it's not a thing you really run into. You don't run into Islam, you don't run into Judaism, you don't run into any other religion. It's either Christianity or nothing. So you can go to a big city if you grew up in a city, a more urbanized population, you run into this. Not a thing for me, so I'm very limited exposure other than just like history type things and stuff I've looked into on my own time. But there's obviously this sect of Islam that is basically everybody who doesn't agree with Islam is a lesser than and should be and can be killed. Obviously not compatible with the way we do things here in the United States, where it's freedom of religion, live and let live. That's not how these people think. It seems, another grain of salt on this, but it seems like that's what motivated these two shooters, specifically the ongoing Israel conflict over in the Middle East. Every Muslim country that surrounds them doesn't really like them, and they're in a constant feud over there. Not really the thing on my radar that I care about the most, but hey, it's a reality. It is what it is. I guess you got to think about it for some reason. Australia is obviously thinking about it right now. But this, I would like to make a different video about it because it is interesting, this whole concept about like religious extremism. I doubt YouTube would like that type of video. They'd probably de-boost the shit out of that immediately, but I don't know. Other than that, that's pretty much the story. We'll see how it develops from now on out and see what comes of it, but nothing good, I think. I know the one shooter's still alive, the kid is still alive, so we'll see what he has to say, I guess, when they interview him or whatever, which I'm sure will happen. But other than that, let me know what you guys think. Leave a like on the video if you got something out of it. Dislike it if you didn't. I'd appreciate you subscribing and coming back tomorrow. See ya.